out to Socrates. Socrates still trying to get the opening. Oh, Socrates! Whoa!
And there it is. The crazy gang have beaten the Culture Club.
Maggie Thatcher, can you hear me? Maggie Thatcher, your boys took a hell of a beating. Your boys took a hell of a beating.
Welcome to Your Boys Took a Hell of a Beating, the fashion department that we're opening up today. There's so many different departments to this podcast that started as a 1980s concern, but now we're all over the place. We've got, I think, art departments and global geopolitics and all sorts of stuff. But a friend of the podcast, or certainly friend of a podcast we used to do, but yeah, friend of the new podcast as well. Brilliant to have him back. TNT Sports, Adam Summerton. Adam, thank you so much for joining us and being the inaugural guest slash co-lecturer on all things World Cup kit specific. Thank you so much for agreeing to come back again.
No worries. Yeah, thanks for the invite. Is that a Monaco top that you've got on there? I can't quite see the badge.
I've gone World Cup. It's Peru's.
Peru. I can only see the top half, and I was trying to work out. I see the badge now. Yeah.
So it's
a famous sash.
The sash and the whole lot. It's the long sleeve one with I have something called the Zaire Protocol here, which gives me carte blanche to buy a football shirt every now and then. Adidas did a reissue about 20 years ago of the Zaire 74 shirt with the trefoil and everything, and it was resplendent. And I taught myself out of buying it because it was about 80 quid. Which was, back 20 odd years ago, early noughties, it was kind of like, ooh, do I do that or not? And I regret talking myself out of it because it's never resurfaced. You don't see people selling it on eBay. No. It's just not there. And it's my big football top regret that I never got that one. But yeah, Adidas did this reissue of the Peru 78 one.
Love it.
Faithful reproduction. And it was like, Zaire Protocol, I'm having that.
Good for you.
Adam, we're going World Cup. We're going. I've asked you to nominate half a dozen or so shirts that tick the box for you on the World Cup. In no specific order, whatever ones you want to go for first. I can say that he's picked a beautiful selection here from and as well really balanced on the shirt manufacturers. I don't know whether that was
it wasn't deliberate.
It's I'm just because I was there, I was noting them down. But I did have to look up the Italy one. I knew the Diodora did 90, but I couldn't quite remember off the top of my head who they had for the other one. But yeah, which one are you going for first, Adam?
Well, in the list that I've written to you here, I suppose Brazil 2002 is the first there. Yeah, I mean, it's just an iconic kit, isn't it? I suppose they all are. You kind of have to be to get in a list like this. It's the type of kit, isn't it, that you'll probably know yourself. You still see people down the gym in it. You still see people walking the streets in it. And I think that's always perhaps an indicator of an iconic kit, particularly one when you're in England that's not English. It's almost like it transfers from just being a football kit to almost a piece of fashion. It sort of crosses a divide, if you like. And I think that Brazil 2002 one certainly does that. And I'm sure we can go into all the reasons why it maybe is considered iconic. I think there are plenty of them, but I always notice that it's a kit that you see in popular culture as well. I've seen it in TV programs. I think I can remember even an episode of The In-Betweeners where Jay, one of the characters, had it on. So, it crosses into popular culture. And I think that's a really big indicator of an iconic kit.
It is, and it's strange as well that it doesn't always have to be, like for me with this Peru top that I've had to get under the Zaire Protocol. It's not always kind of like you've picked some great teams here, but sometimes it can just be, I don't know, one that lodges in your mind of it'll be a game or a moment or whatever it was, aesthetically pleasing. And sometimes there's no rhyme or reason why you're attracted to a shirt.
That's true. Yeah, it's really funny. I've always said to my kids, I would love to do a documentary where you followed the creation of a kit from concept to, once it's out there and maybe years later assess how it did. I think that'd be a fascinating documentary to see how they come up with these ideas. I don't know that documentary has ever been made. I could be wrong. I haven't seen it if it has been. I think that would be really, really interesting when you think of some of the kits. And it's interesting, isn't it? I look at, for example, Liverpool this summer have brought out a kit that's basically a copy of an iconic one they had in the 90s. So what we see as well is that these ideas, when one really hits well, as that one did back in the 90s, it comes back around again and they try it again. So it's really interesting. But I think with this kit in particular, there are so many different reasons that makes it iconic. But as well, I think it's because of that World Cup final as well in 2002 and the Ronaldo famous haircut that so many kids at the time were copying. People will remember that. And Ronaldo, for me, is one of the greatest centre forwards of all time. And I think as well that it was his redemption story too, all the terrible injury problems that he'd come through, the previous World Cup final where there was that Willy Won'ty that, still to this day, it remains in part a mystery, doesn't it? Whatever happens in that, the 1998 World Cup final. So the haircut, his 2 goals, I should say as well, that he scored too. So yeah, and it just looks good as well. I mean, that's a massive part of a good kit as well, isn't it? It looks good. The colour really is so striking. A fantastic team. And yeah, I just think it's crossed into popular culture. And it wouldn't surprise me if I were to go into town after I've spoken to you that I would see somebody walking down the street. And I mean, it's and certainly down the gym, it always amuses me how many great kits you see people wearing in the gym these days. It's I contribute to that. I did my workout in the Italia 90 kit the other day. Almost seemed wrong to do a workout in that kit, to be honest.
Yeah, you've got to look after those kits. But
exactly, yeah.
Looking resplendent, though, yeah. I think with 2002 as well, there's a little bit of, I think, an underappreciated kind of value in Brazil. I don't know, kind of like saving the tournament in a way. I mean, as a tournament goes, it was great that there were so many shocks and so many, stories, esoteric stories that bubbled up from left field, South Korea, all of that, America, USA making the quarterfinals, and yet there was something that just felt a little bit like you were also dispossessed because we didn't get all that many big heavyweight clashes because of the shocks, the surprises.
Yeah.
Argentina, France going out in the group stages, Italy, falling in the last 16 to South Korea. Yeah. So many of the things that certainly I kind of like associate to the World Cup that is that you do want those stories of kind of like the little guy coming through and really overextending themselves. But I also want to see Ali versus Fraser as well. And I want to see Leonard versus Hagler and all of those type of matches thrown in for good measure. And in that respect, Brazil being the punchline in it, and also Ronaldo fighting his way back from injury as well.
Yeah,
it did have a kind of satisfying end, even though kind of like, and within that they weren't great in qualifying, were they? So there is a little bit of everything thrown into Brazil that backs up that kit, that shirt. Yeah,
for me as well. I mean, I don't know if you've ever watched that Ronaldo documentary about how hard he had to fight to get fit, and what he had to come through. And of course, you remember he got fit and then basically did the injury again. And I think it was in his first game back. So, I mean, the fortitude, the mental resilience that he showed. I mean, as I said earlier on the pitch, for me, one of the best centre forwards of all time, the phenomenon as he was known. But yeah, that redemption story, it's great having the team stories, but that you can't really beat a great individual redemption story, but I'm talking about from 98 where there was, all the controversy. So, and then mixed in with that, you had the recoveries from injury as well. So all wrapped up, it was just a brilliant story. And as you say, you got the team side of it as well. So yeah, there's lots to associate with a kit sometimes, isn't there? And it's all wrapped up together. And why a kit is special to you or that might not be special to somebody else. All depends on your perceptions, your memories, how you see things. They're all wrapped up together, aren't they? But they're the reasons really that I would pick that as one of my choices.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many variables because it's your own personal variables that play a part in that as well. There might be World Cups or a major tournament where you've got a lot on your plate and you don't really absorb it quite so much, certainly as you become an adult. Whereas some tournaments you think, right in the sweet spot. I was able to watch huge swathes of that one and it just affects you in a completely different way. Yeah, Brazil 2000, Nike, their kind of part in this. They Adidas continue to supply the match ball, yet for certain around that period, 98, 2002, Nike were kind of like, they almost overshadowed Adidas in terms of the kits, their association with Brazil, those adverts kicking the ball around the airport. They play a huge part in this.
Yeah, I mean, that is, I use that word again, iconic, that advert. I mean, I saw it come up on social media just recently. It's that was one that really hit, wasn't it? It was a great idea. I'd love to have, I don't know, again, talking about potential documentaries, I don't know if anyone's can point me in the direction of the filming of that commercial and how they produced it all, because that would do well if it went on TV or on one of the streaming services, because, as I say, it's an advert that obviously you'd need to be a certain age, I guess, which sounds weird even saying that, but you'd need to be a certain age to remember it, I guess. But those who do, I mean, it was the music that went with it. It was just everything about that was just right, wasn't it? Sometimes in popular culture, there's just like a perfect storm where things all just hit at the right time, or it's got all the right visuals and sounds that just capture people's attention or imagination. And that kit and that advert and Nike at the time were probably at the top of their game. And it all just stays in the memory. And that's the thing as well for a kit manufacturer. If you get it right with something like that, the impact that you feel in terms of your sales and your popularity, it doesn't just last for that tournament or that year. It can carry forward 20, 30, 40 years, and it becomes notorious. And so for a company like Nike, I mean, we are literally talking about it now because of that advert. There must be a lot of pressure on the people at these kit manufacturers to get it right, find something that goes down in that bracket of iconic, because if you do, I mean, it's like striking gold, isn't it?
It is. I mean, we've done a recent module. I'm not sure which order these will come out in, but we did one with Stu Horsfield and Aidan Williams, where we did a critical take and a tongue-in-cheek top 10 World Cup songs episode. And what was, interesting in this is that, it didn't make the top 10 in the end. Delamitri, 1990, and Don't Come Home Too Soon. They mimicked the video. The advert, the Nike advert in the video, the kids are kicking the ball around Prestwick Airport, and there's Colin Hendry doing keepy uppies and in the gangway and stuff like that. So it's the way that has stood the test of time in terms of how many times it has been mimicked and replicated in all sorts of different variations.
Yeah, like I say, with World Cups as well, they just stick in the memory usually, don't they? Perhaps more than anything else. And that time of the year, that time of a season where, that is the sole focus as well. It's not like when you've got the domestic leagues and you have the Champions League and the Europa League. And then if you like your football further afield, you might have the South American Championships or whatever. Everyone's attention, literally the whole world is looking at this one tournament. I was going to say that one country, of course, this one is in 3 different countries. But that's they just capture people's imagination, capture attention. And for these companies, they're just the perfect marketing spot, aren't they? It's a marketeer's dream, really, isn't it, to have all that focus on that one tournament for a month, isn't it? So you can see why they must put an enormous amount of resources into getting these things right.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to your second choice, Adam.
I've gone with the semi-final from the 1990 World Cup and the 2 kits within that. So, because the 1990 World Cup for me was the first it wasn't my first World Cup, but it was the first World Cup that I properly remember, I would say, in terms and culturally as well. The significance of it as somebody who grew up to love Italian football, like many people of my generation as well. It all fed into that with, Gazza going to Italy and Gazzetta following on in the early 90s as well. It's just culturally, I keep using that word, don't I? Culturally, it's just really special to me, that World Cup. And I'm sure there was so many people of my age, I'm in my mid-40s, who would, share that feeling too. And if I think back to a game that sort of is, I can remember watching with my mum and dad on our sort of telly from the 70s, I think it was. It had a little button on it that you had to twist to turn it on, and then the telly would take about 5 minutes to properly warm up. Any kids listening to this would just be like, what is he on about? But that's what that telly was like. I mean, my mum and dad had that telly for, it must have been 20, 30 years. It felt like that anyway. But these are all the sort of little memories that feed into it, isn't it? It's not just a kit or a match. It's all the things around it, and even like the type of telly that we were watching it on. But yeah, I think that Germany kit, although obviously as an Englishman, the memories of it are pretty painful, but it was a special World Cup. It was the run to the semi-finals. I thought we were unlucky in the semi-final as well. Thought, could easily have gone the other way. But that Germany kit, I mean, everybody, I would imagine, listening knows what I'm talking about. And again, talking about a kit being almost effectively reissued, really, in the modern kit. They've copied it, haven't they, from 1990. So I would say it's probably, in terms of Germany kits, the most iconic one I can remember. Just an amazing design. Again, I'd love to have seen or been a fly on the wall when they had that sort of concept meeting where they came up with that idea to make it look like that, and asked them, why did you do it like that? What was it that you felt was particularly striking about it? Why did you think that it would take hold? Or was it, just more relaxed than that? Oh, that looks quite nice. Let's go with that. I don't know. But I'd be fascinated to speak to people who do that role. But yeah, it's just instantly recognizable. And then, of course, the England kit as well. I suppose you could look at it and say, aesthetically, is it one of the better England kits? Maybe not. So maybe this one, it's more what it means to me as a tournament, perhaps less than the actual kit itself, if that makes sense. But it's, I suppose if you to suggest which is the more iconic kit from that tournament, it would be the blue one, the third kit, wasn't it? The England one that's been reissued again recently. That's the one that really culturally, I think people. I bought that years ago. I've got that up in my wardrobe, the blue one. I haven't got the white one. I have got the blue one. So. Yeah, Italian 90 as a whole was just. There were quite a lot of fairly dull games in it. However, it's just all the things around it. It was the music, Nessun Dorma, the stadiums that it's like San Siro and the Olimpico, and it was just magical. Even the mascot Ciao. I ordered a top the other day with Ciao on the top just because it had Ciao and Italia 90 on it, and it's just good memories. And it just makes me smile thinking about that tournament that year, and even the 90s in general were just for me were just such a bit of music and just popular culture. It was just a fantastic time to be a teenager, which is what I was then. When I wasn't a teenager for that World Cup, I was 9 going on 10 for that World Cup. But the 90s, and I sort of, when I look at that 1990 World Cup, I almost sort of merged into it that Gazzetta culture as well that followed it, with Gazza going there and everything. So it's all wrapped up in that for me. And that's why I've picked that game, or those two kits, I suppose you could say.
Yeah, no, I actually think that's a decent England kit. I've always said that. I've always had a downer on the England 86 kit, certainly the white one, and the fact that England just wore white throughout that World Cup and never wore the red, because the red one looked a whole lot better than the white one did. And when you were looking at kind of like kits across 86, thinking, that Denmark kit's just absolutely fantastic.
I've got that, yeah.
I've got one of those as well.
Yeah.
So all these kits, the Coq Sportif kits, the Spain one, the Argentina, which might get mentioned soon. The Brazil topper kits and all that type of stuff. There were so many beautiful kits. I love Scotland's, even the polarising kind of like shorts with a band across them, and Northern Ireland had the 3 stripes down the sleeves, which always looks cool. And the England one just looked so dull and conservative at the 86 World Cup. It looked a whole lot better. In fact, in a game you might mention later on, when they had the sky blue shorts with them. I can remember thinking that looks so much better than it did with the dark blue shorts. But I thought the 1990 one. As a kid, I'd have been 16, Italia 90, and I had the white and the red ones. I did venture out. I did think like the band around the sleeves with the Umbro markings and stuff like that. It looked, it did. It looked far better, looked the part. And I think World in Motion played a part in that as well. Yeah,
I should have mentioned that. That's the football song for me. The John Barnes part of it. At the time, I would say that he was one of the best players in the world. And I think at Liverpool at the time, being involved in European competition, perhaps his name would have been even bigger than it is. He's somebody that could have won European Footballer of the Year for me if Liverpool had been playing in Europe at the time. He was mean, I suppose you could say, did he ever hit the same levels for England? Probably not, but certainly at club level. I mean, what a player. And I mean, best wishes actually to John Barnes at the minute, obviously going through some health concerns, isn't he? So I hope he's okay. But he was just an incredible player. Probably my favourite ever footballer, actually, just in terms of just his elegance. He was just such a joy to watch. And there were a lot of good players. I mean, Lineker obviously had his role in that team. There was so much of the story was about Gaza as well. I remember, being at school, at junior school at the time, and kids were coming in and, they would be drawing Gaza in lessons, and everyone wanted to talk about him. And if there was any art lessons, they would be drawing something to do with Gaza or the World Cup. I can distinctly remember things like that. He was just probably the most famous man in the country at the time, really. Gaza. The other thing as well, I mean, I know it's not a kit, but in terms of sportswear at the time, I don't know if you remember, but if you were a kid at the time, you wanted a shell suit. And if you wanted a shell suit, you probably wanted the England shell suit. I can remember pestering my mum and dad relentlessly for the England shell suit. And finally, because it was really hard to get hold of, as I remember, where I was living, because they just kept selling out because they were so popular. So I remember them taking me to a sports shop in a place called Ainsdale in not too far from Liverpool, actually. Yeah. And we managed to get one there. And I don't think I took it off. It felt like that anyway. I don't think I took it off for months, and it was my absolute pride and joy. I don't know if it's still at my mum's house, because she's still in the same house that we were as kids. I don't know if she'd be able to dig it out, but yeah, she sent me a picture of me in it with her and my brother, and it was great to see it again actually on the photo that she sent us. But yeah, I think the first day I got it, if I remember, I did something daft in it, like fell over in some mud or something like that down the park, and she was like, "I can't believe that you've fallen in mud in this England." That it probably cost a fortune by those days' standards. So yeah, that was another thing for me. The England shell suit, that was properly iconic as well.
It was indeed. Yeah. There was some great, the Ireland one. I remember coveting the Ireland one at that time as well, because they had a great one as well with the Adidas stripes that kind of the zigzag, bit like the Columbia shirt, where it was kind of like across the shoulders rather than down the shoulders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Outstanding. But no, two in one is two for the price of one there with the 1997.
Yeah, I cheated a bit.
But in a good way, in a great way there. But yeah, again, manufacturers, we're talking Umbro versus Adidas there as well. So you have kept this unintentional balance. Of manufacturers going. Next up, I think you've got a bit of a double header in terms of the nation. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm, as much as I love my English football, and Italian football is something that's really important to me, and I still love covering it on TNT every Sunday night. I mean, I cover all sorts of different leagues and competitions, but that one is still really close to my heart for reasons I've already really, I suppose, alluded to, with how old I am and the perfect storm culture-wise that there was with Italian football in the 90s. Everyone knows the story about, how English football at the time went behind a paywall, and not every household could afford to pay to watch the Premier League on Sky, and therefore you found your football fix sometimes on a Sunday afternoon with with Serie A on Channel 4. So yeah, Italian football is really special to me, and that tournament 1990. And if I'm to sort of close my eyes and think of that tournament, I can picture Baggio in the Italy shirt. I can picture Toto Schillaci, those two in particular, in that lovely blue Italy shirt with sort of flashes of gold, like for example around the badge there was like this little. It just looks proper. It looks. It's quite a plain kit in some ways, but it just looks elegant. I don't know if it's the colour that feeds into that as well. And just recently, actually, I went away for a weekend with my other half. We went to Cambridge just randomly. We just decided to go somewhere that was within about a couple of hours' drive. And we were wandering around Cambridge, and it just so happened, and it was completely by accident, I walked past this really cool shop I think it's called Football Finery. They're on Instagram if people want to look them up, but they just had an entire shop in Cambridge full of vintage kits and other things as well, little models of players. And for me, I mean, I was just like a kid in a sweet shop. I think I stayed in there for an hour. It was just me, my other half, and the guy who was
sort of running the shop that particular day. And we just talked about football and kits. And I probably would have paid an entrance fee, to be honest. It was that good. And when I was looking through all the kits, he had an authentic kit from that kit from 1990. And I'm usually a small or a medium in kits, depends on the manufacturer. And that was a small, and it's a little bit tight on me, but I got it anyway because I was just like, I just need to, even if I just put it in a frame, as it happens, I've ended up going to the gym in it. But I just had to have that kit, and it's just beautiful. And as I say, it's a great memory as well of that World Cup. Those two players in particular who made the headlines and, had a nation dreaming. Of course, they didn't go on to win it in the end. But it's just I suppose it's quite an understated but still beautiful kit, I would say.
Oh, it is. It is. It's the fact that you can see in the material itself, it's that shimmer as well with that one.
Exactly.
That makes it stand out a little bit more. It's a little bit more of a kind of a matte effect for the other one that you'll mention, but I mean that doesn't detract from it. It makes them two similar, very, like I say, basic, but in a beautiful kind of way. I mean, if you're going to do basic, you've got to be able to nail it perfectly, and they certainly do it. It's Diodora that do the 1990 kit, but you're also looking at 1982.
Yeah, and Diodora too. I had a pair of Diodora boots when I was a kid as well. So Diodora's, and I love those boots.
Was Diodora as well.
Yeah, and Baggio was promoted Diodora too, and they just fit so nice. It's a bizarre thing to say, but I have quite a narrow foot, and I always struggle to get school shoes because of that. But the Diodora boots fitted me beautifully. I always remember playing in them. But yeah, the other one I mentioned, and again, I do like the kit. It's, again, as you've just illustrated, it's quite simplistic, but it's beautiful. Is the 1982 Italy kit. And the primary reason I mention this is because if I'm to sort of watch a goal and a celebration that gives me goosebumps, even though it's not my country, I was probably 1-2 years old at the time, so I don't remember it in terms of seeing it live. But for me, it sums up everything about what's so special about our game, what the emotion, the happiness it can bring you, just the sheer release of emotion that can happen when a big moment occurs in a football match, particularly on the world stage, like when Tardelli scored that goal for Italy. And I have a drawing of that moment on my office wall that I bought from Art of Football many years ago, and every time it just catches my eye. Maybe I'm tidying up in the office or I'm doing some work. It just makes me smile because for me it sounds a bit weird but for me it's football. That celebration is football. That's the primary reason why I had to pick that kit, because everything about that moment, that goal, the joy, the release of emotion, just the passion that Tardelli shows when he scores that goal. It's just so special. I can only imagine how it must feel looking at that if you're Italian and it means even more, way more to you because, it was your country that was playing at the time. But for me, that's it just sums up so much about what we love about our game.
Oh, without doubt, yeah. That I grew up because 82 is my first World Cup, and it's kind of the one. Because our first World Cups are the benchmark for all the rest, and you can only kind of like measure, when we're all hardwired to those first World Cups. And I think once you get to kind of like your third one, then you start to see the critical eye starts to kick in. But yeah, your first couple are just kind of like utter perfection. All the warts, you ignore them, and it's all of that type of thing going on. But yeah, 82, I can vividly remember watching that 82. I can tell you that it rained that night. There was summer rain that evening.
Yeah,
I know that I went to the local shop and got myself a curly whirly and a bag of sodas as kind of like my match snack for sitting there watching that. I can tell you all of that because it's just so ingrained, and I was so transfixed by just how Italy kind of like rose basically from being this team that was being pelted with kind of like criticism to being the bad guys for knocking out Brazil to putting on this display. And I always love that, and it's the build up to that goal as well, and how if you don't just watch the Tardelli bit, wind it back, find footage that kind of like brings where they bring the ball out of defence, Shearer, it's got to be John Motson's commentary as well, and the Shearer's part in it, and all of that. And there's a great interview with Tardelli, and you'll find it online, where he explains what he's doing when he celebrates as well. That he's actually commentating to himself, as kind of like going back to when he was a kid, as you would do as a kid, have scored the winning goal in the World Cup final and all that type of stuff. And he just lets it. But in a weird way, it became a bit of what's the word I'm looking for, a kind of stereotype of the World Cup in the years to follow, because it was always shown as part of the montages and of the opening credits of World Cups for a long time. And I think it became a little bit taken for granted for a few years. But then it's come back again in terms of people look at that now again through 1982 eyes, and it happening there and then, not the fact that it was it became kind of like Dancing Queen. If an ABBA song's on the radio, it's Dancing Queen. It became the Dancing Queen of the World Cup, basically. Now it's back to being that sheer joy of what's happened and in that moment. But yeah, God, to have been Italian and watched it, when that goal and that celebration affects us in the way it does, and not being Italian. Imagine being Italian. And
I can't imagine. Yeah, it must be so special. And as I say, I've got it a photo. It's like a drawing of obviously a still on my office wall, and I mean that'll go with me wherever I live for the rest of my life. It'll always be on the wall, because it's just, for me, it's just football, and it's incredibly special.
Magnificent. Le Coq Sportif. 1982.
Was it right? Yeah.
Yeah. And just Le Coq Sportif will come up with some incredible kits over those years.
They were Everton's kit manufacturer for a while.
They did. Everton in the mid 1980s pomp. Yeah, they supplied the kits for Everton. 80, 83, 84, 84, 85, 85. It's that 85, 86 one with a band across the top of the chest. And
Everton were at
some people some people either love or hate it, but yeah, you get though, and I think a lot of Everton fans just kind of like. I think they'd love it if they wore that in 84, 85, but the fact that they wore it in 85, 86 when they miss out on the double, it's and it's who they lose out to. Shades that there's a degree of trauma in that kit. But I think for me, as on the opposite side of Stanley Park, it's kind of like but in terms of being a football fan as well as a fanatical Liverpool supporter, I've got a soft spot for that kit, and But they brought Umbro back into the mix for 86, 87, and as nice of a kit as that is, it's not got the same feel as those Le Coq Sportif ones. But Le Coq Sportif again for your final pick, Adam. Take it away.
Well, I've still got two left here, so
sorry. I've missed some. I've got a surprise bonus kit then.
Let's do the Argentina one, because again, it's not just about the kit. Now, the kit, I think that type of that colour that we weren't used to seeing Argentina in, were we? But because of the game that obviously against England, which is one that so many, you don't even need to have been born to have, I'm sure people will have seen that. And it was the kit in which probably the greatest goal of all time was scored in. And I know that that's just beauty's in the eye of the beholder. But if you take everything into consideration, the stage, the state of the pitch, how far he had to run with the ball, the close control, the finish, everything about the quality of the players he was coming up against, I think that that Maradona goal is it's got to be probably the greatest of all time. The fact that it came in the same game as a match where he cheated, so that you've got that contrast there as well. But one of the other things I really like about this whole kit is the fact that it should never really have been, if I'm right, and you probably be aware of this story, that the kit man, there was a clash of colours really, wasn't there? And they needed to find a kit in an emergency Argentina to play against England in. And the kit man, if I'm right about this, was literally sent out into town and said, right, you need to get us a kit. You need to, and they ended up sort of going to what we would consider now like hockey kit sellers in the street, I think it was. And they ended up stitching the Argentina badge onto hockey. Am I right with this? Onto like...
If you're wrong, we're both wrong here, because I've grown up on this story as well.
It's just an incredible story. I mean, these were different times. This was the mid '80s, admittedly, but can you imagine that happening now? I mean, it just wouldn't, would it? I mean, it just couldn't happen, couldn't possibly happen. But the fact that the kit men were having to stitch the Argentina badge on, and then of course, if you roll forward all these years later, Steve Hodge swaps shirts with Maradona, sticks it literally in a carrier bag. I think he put it in. Had it there, probably, I don't know, in his loft somewhere, stashed away all those years, and then sold it for, I don't actually know the final price, but it was millions of pounds, wasn't it? Years later. Yeah. So that kit has just had its own sort of life, hasn't it? I mean, it was an iconic game, one of the greatest World Cup goals of all time. It looks good. The story of the fact that, they had to go out and be sewing the badge on the night before the game. I mean, in terms of the story of a kit, there can't be a better story, can there, than that kit and in that game. Amazing.
Everything that there, politically as well, what it meant. And I mean, I've written an article about a good few years ago about the hand of God and picking the beauty out of it. Just for the want of a better phrase, the sleight of hand, the picking of the pocket, and the covering up of the crime, and all of that. I find a great deal of beauty in that goal. But it's like in the build-up, there's a Zapruder effect to it. And the burst of speed that Maradona has as he kind of like launches himself towards the penalty area, the laying off of the ball, the way it flicks up, and Valdano spins and he's got his elbow out, which makes Steve Hodge hesitant to put his head in, but to kind of hook the ball over his, and then kind of like you've got Terry Fenwick and Terry Butcher watching basically as Maradona just belts past them, and it's So I did it in a takedown in kind of like snapshot images. So it was literally kind of like the Zapruder kind of like film of Kennedy, but in hand of God terms. And I look at that goal now with immense joy in so many respects in terms of just the whole uniqueness of it. He's not the only player to have kind of like bundled the ball in the back of the net by the use of his hand, but everything that surrounds it, and the whole. Because it's amazing how, in terms of still photos of that moment, not one of it catches the moment where the ball lands on his hand. Because if you watch it online, go YouTube, whatever, if you pause it just as the ball hits his hand, he's got his hand rested on the top of his head, and it basically bounces off his hand and goes over Shilton. Whereas every other image that's shown, that every camera that was clicked either got the ball just as it was coming down or just as it was going up, and his hand was moving away from his. So it always that narrative of him punching the ball, it kind of like bounces off the top of his hand that's resting on the top of his head. It
could actually have gone anywhere, couldn't it?
It could have gone anywhere. It really could have gone anywhere. And it's the way he just kind of like and when I go into it, it's like. What's fascinating is the kind of domino effect of how England players protest the goal as well. Yeah. So you've only really got Peter Shilton and Terry Fenwick who knows what's happened, and then you've got kind of Terry Butcher kind of like, well, he's handled the ball, so he's told second hand basically.
Yeah.
But he goes and chases the referee back to the halfway line, by which time he's told Glenn Hoddle. So Hoddle's in there as well, kind of like complaining as if they are, first hand witnesses of this crime when they're not. They've been told what's happened, and it's kind of like, well, we're going to carry the arguments on. And then you've got Peter Beardsley coming up, and he's like bewildered by what's happening, but he throws his argument into it, saying, "Oh, if you're arguing, I'll get in." Then you've got Steve Hodge just very, very sheepishly moving back in position for the kickoff again,
and he wants his shirt.
Yeah, mental note: I'm getting that shirt after the end of the game. So it's all of the. If you can go back and watch that goal, do it in a people watching frame of mind, and you see so many other things that you've maybe never noticed before. And it's just I love it. I absolutely love it. But that game, and it's before the game, as a build up to that goal as well. Shilton can see that England are falling asleep defensively. He winds his hand like he's doing an invisible spinning wheel, and he's trying to wake his defenders up. And it is fascinating to watch it as a kind of 90-second collective rather than just that one point of impact. It's got all of human nature within it. It's glorious, absolutely glorious. Bonus track, your bonus shirt then, France 98. I'm glad, I love this kit as well.
You've probably noticed really that with the kits that I've picked, I suppose you could say, with maybe the exception of the Germany one, which I do in part pick because of how it looks. A lot of these picks are because of what they mean and all the cultural aspects that are rolled up into it. But I think this one, I mean, I've not actually made a great deal of notes in my mind or on what I'm looking at here in front of this, because it wasn't so much about what it meant to me culturally. I just think it looks a good kit. I know it's just a really nice design. And it also, that is another kit, a little bit like the Brazil 2002 one, where it's the type of kit that you wouldn't be surprised still, even to this day, that you'd see someone in the street with it on, or maybe see someone down the gym with it on. It kind of crossed over into popular culture, that France 98 shirt. I mean, I always remember, there's certain images from that World Cup as well, isn't there, that you remember? I mean, I can always remember Barthez being kissed on the head, things like, and you kind of associate those images obviously naturally with that kit. So, it was a great French team as well. You think some of the wonderful players, and at that time as well, and they would go on to have more success. There was so many players in that France team who did really good things in England and Italy. The two leagues that I watched the most. So, yeah, there was just, mostly though for that kit, it's just because I just think it looks a cracking kit, and if you were French and you think back to that World Cup and all that meant to them to win that World Cup, I mean, I would imagine there'd be a lot of Frenchmen who've got that as a retro shirt in their wardrobes. You'd have to, wouldn't you? I mean, it's, again, I've used this word a lot, but it's iconic, isn't it?
It is as well. I mean, it's very, very. I mean, I wouldn't say it's necessarily totally identical. It's not far off though to the kit that France win Euro '84 in. There's huge similarities between the two. In a way, it's kind of like that wave of kind of, you mentioned earlier on about Liverpool's kit for next season, about how Germany have rehashed that 1990 kit so many times. This for me is kind of arguably the first time that this phenomenon kind of kicks in the terms of we reboot certainly international level an old kit.
Yeah, and it's become really common, hasn't it, to go back and I don't know if you saw, but this season I thought this was an absolutely brilliant idea. The La Liga actually did a retro kit day, which I thought was so. I mean, if they did that in Italy, I mean, wow, some of the kits we've had in Serie A over the years, it would be absolutely brilliant. But yeah, I thought that was such a clever idea for whoever came up with that in the management at La Liga. And I just think that people love a bit of football in nostalgia. I mean, you only have to look at the market, and it seems to be growing all the time, of these classic shirts, whether they're reissues or whether they are, genuine ones like the Italia 90 one, the Italy one that I got from Italia 90, whichever it is. I mean, I've bought reissues of, it's not a World Cup kit, but I would say if I had to name the greatest kit of all time, all the different reasons, for me, it would be the Dutch of '88. That for me is the most iconic football kit of all time. Now, everyone will have a different view on what that is, but I got a reissue of that. I got a reissue of the Denmark one that you mentioned earlier. And I just think that the people absolutely love it, don't they? They love the looking back, the retro side of it. And I suppose in some ways you could say, maybe it depends which way you look at it. Maybe it's a bit of a shame that we seem to have almost run out of ideas a little bit if we're going back and rehashing old kits. But because the next iconic kit is yet to be made, perhaps. We could look at a kit from this World Cup in 20, 30 years' time and say, wow, what a kit that was. That's been absolutely iconic. So you never quite know. And what fascinates me about these football kits, and I've never really truly been able to give myself an answer on this, is how do they become so iconic? It's so many different things that feed into it, isn't it? It's not just the design. It's maybe a moment that happened in that kit, a game in which it was worn. How much is it about how it looks? I mean, we've illustrated here how I've picked one kit because of how it looked. I picked another because of a moment that I associate with it being worn in. So there's lots of different reasons why we love these kits and why they mean so much. I genuinely mean that. They mean a lot to me personally as a football fan. That is one of my prized possessions now, that it's Italy 1990 kit. I'll absolutely treasure it. I'll never, till the day I die, it'll be, I'll know where it is to go and get it out and at least look at it, So these are really special things. And it's a real phenomenon for me. It almost needs studying. What is it about these kits and everything that just entrances so many people who love football?
Yeah, it's fascinating because it doesn't translate into anything else. Very, it's not like you. I mean, maybe occasionally, there might be an iconic musician, and I've got that the US Army shirt that John Lennon used to wear.
Yeah.
I've got a reissue of that was bought for my birthday about 10, 15 years ago, and I still get that out and put it on from time to time, and stuff like that. But apart from that, people will get the John Lennon New York City T-shirt, and stuff like that. But with music, it tends to be band T-shirts, doesn't it? Tour T-shirts and stuff like that. You don't tend to get people saying, that was a great outfit that he wore at Glastonbury. I'm gonna get one of those.
Yeah,
it's very much bespoke to football. But yeah,
it's fascinating. It's just all part of this footballing culture that we all immerse ourselves in, and I think as well. Part of it is, and this again, it's just another aspect. This isn't something that has to be essential as to whether you love a kit, but I do think that if it was a special time to you in terms of not just football but culture as well, and I go back to, I know we're not doing the Euros, but the Euro '96 kit for me means much more than just a football kit. I was 15, going on 16 at the time of that tournament. In terms of memories of a tournament, they're probably the strongest memories that I have of any tournament, Euro 96. I was just leaving school. That England team was just fantastic. Terry Venables in charge. Even now, just Gaza so close to touching that ball, and it's just everything wrapped up in that makes that kit special too. So, yeah, why we love these things, why we hold them so dear, that when you put on that kit, it's almost like in a way you sort of transported back a little bit. I know that might sound daft to some people, but you kind of are. It just reminds you. It's almost like looking at a special photograph of a lovely time in your life or a memorable day in your life. It's a little bit like that. It just takes you back. And like if I would saying this to my other half, who, bless her, she is an amazing woman, but she knows nothing, and she would say this herself, she knows nothing about football, she doesn't get it. She'd be looking at me like, I just can't get into I can't understand that. But you know what I mean. And I'm sure so many people listening.
Exactly what you mean.
And I'm sure so many people listening to what I'm saying know exactly. I mean, it gives me goosebumps. I've literally got goosebumps talking about it. It means so much to so many people, and kit culture is a massive part of that. Yeah. It is.
So, I mean, it's that question as well about, is it all right for a grown-up to be wearing a football shirt or football? It absolutely is. It absolutely is, especially when going back to buy one from those sweet spots of when football was at its most electric as you were growing up, and that set those contrasts that speak to you. It really, really does. Adam, that's been brilliant. Absolutely love that. I've emailed you. We do our "and finally" section as well. Yeah. I've emailed you a bespoke top 40 from. Yeah. This is the top 40 from when England played West Germany in the semi-final of the 1990 World Cup. Poised over the play and record button. What are you choosing to illegally record from the top 40?
I'm from the generation that used to record the charts on a Sunday night where you would pause in between the songs.
Well, this is going into your choices while you're doing that. Yeah,
this is a really good top 10 I'm looking at here. I mean, I can remember all of these songs quite clearly. The number one is "Snap the Power," but "Love Shack" I remember really clearly. I can remember singing along to that at my little kids' teams, like presentation evening, something, and one of the dads singing along to us. That's just unlocked a memory from like 1990. So Vogue, Madonna. Wow, there's some great ones here. Birdhouse in Your Soul. I'd probably go with "Snap." Actually, I know it's the number one, but yeah, that was a great track, wasn't it? The Power. You still hear that? I could still hear that now if I turned on. My local radio station plays a lot of stuff from the 90s, and I've probably heard that quite recently, actually. So yeah, go with that.
Magnificent choice. Yeah, there's so many really good choices in that top 40 there. Unreal. Moving on to our TV guys. England versus West Germany. July the 4th, 1990. We've got it's an 8. Is it? It's a 7:30 kickoff, 7 o'clock kickoff possibly for this one. Your choices of viewing in the build up to this. If you're getting back in from school, you've got the Ewoks at Cartoon at 4:10.
Right.
What went wrong with Neil? I'm not sure. I have no recollection of this.
Me neither.
At 4:35, news round at 5 o'clock, predictably. Colour in the Creek at 5:10. Again, no idea. That's been given a 3 out of 10 by the Independent.
Well, I can't remember it. So
yeah, the TV Guide editor there. We've obviously got Neighbours at 5:35.
Classic.
Beyond that, it's all to do with the news.
It's got to be Neighbours, because Neighbours, I remember as a kid, we always had RT and we had Neighbours on in the background because we had to eat. We weren't allowed to sit and watch the telly. We had to eat RT at the table. And I still do that with my kids now. There's no telly when you have your tea. And you could kind of hear the first 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'd be like, can we go and watch Neighbours now? And then it would go into the back room and watch Neighbours while maybe mum was making dessert or whatever. So, yeah, Neighbours, I watched that for years and years. Bouncer the dog and Daphne.
This would
Al
have been,
Stewart.
Yeah, this would have been.
Was that Al Stewart? Was he Home and Away? Or was he Neighbours? Was he? No, he was.
Yeah, he was Home and Away.
He was Home and Away. Mrs. Mangle, she was Neighbours, wasn't she?
That's right. Yeah. Harold in the coffee shop and all that type of stuff. Yeah.
Luke Carpenter.
Yes, absolutely. BBC Two has given us lots of Wimbledon 1990.
Oh, okay.
But you also have Finger Mouse beforehand.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I remember Finger Mouse.
Over on
Finger Mouse, was that one? Was that Danger Mouse?
Danger Mouse, that was Danger Mouse, that one. But yeah, Finger Mouse was it. Yeah, the artist with the kind of like kind of like wild kind of spaced out kind of like 1970s kind of vibe.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, repeated for many, many years. ITV, you've got the Wombles, Bertie the Bat, I've no idea. Kappa 2, again, no idea. Blockbusters, though, at 5:10. Bob Holness. Both channels showing the World Cup game live, the England-West Germany game. While on Channel 4, you've got a little bit of Tour de France to bide your time as well. Anything in particular beyond Neighbours there that might pique your interest?
Finger Mouse, I've got a vague memory of.
They were finger puppets, yeah. And he put, and then so it was one of these where there's a generation where a bit like Marmite, you're kind of absolutely terrified by this whole thing, or you were massively transfixed.
Yeah, Blockbusters, I do remember. I do remember Blockbusters. Yeah, I mean, we had the game. You could get the board game.
Yeah, I had the board game. It was a wonderful.
Bob Holness must have made quite a bit of money off the old the board game, because loads of households had that. He was a great presenter, actually. So yeah, I definitely remember Blockbusters. Neighbours was just religiously on in our house, but there was some.
With Neighbours, always a bonus if you had a day off sick from school, you could watch the 1:30 showing.
1:30 and 5:30. Was it 5? I think it was 5:35. I think
5:35. Yes.
Was it?
Yeah.
It wasn't 5:30, was it?
Yeah. So I think because it's the BBC, they cut out the adverts, so you ended up with like the 25 minutes. Yeah.
Always remember that 5:35. Yeah, it's funny the things that stick in your head, isn't it?
Isn't it just? But yeah, it was 1:30 of an afternoon. Oh, we've got the synopsis for the 1:30 version of Neighbours. Are Scott and Poppy nearing the end of the road? Will an articulated lorry splat them across the zebra crossing before they can make the safety of the pavement? ?
It's amazing that these things exist. These still exist online somewhere, isn't there? Someone's gone to the trouble of putting all that stuff up. Brilliant. Yeah, great. You've evoked some fantastic childhood memories with this today. But yeah, the ones definitely the two I'd best remember there are Blockbusters and Neighbours, 100%.
Yes, that's a win. They tick the box for me as well. Adam, thank you so much. It's been a joy to do. A great selection of kits, and I approve of your Neighbours watching.
Nice to speak to you again. Thanks for having me on. And I love your Peru kit as well.
Oh, no, this is my first wearing of it as well. I had to take the label off the back as well this morning.
Fantastic.
That's the one that needs to
be
the
iconic sash. Yeah, it's even got the old the old. Well, it's back now, isn't it? That Adidas logo.
Yeah.
They didn't have that logo. They brought that back, didn't they?
There is, and that's the thing. Yeah, I've got to go for those ones. If it's got the old logo on, then it's definitely pushes me towards it. Thank you so much again, Adam.
Pleasure.
All that leaves me to say is thank you for listening. Please do spread the word. Your boys talk for Hella Beaten. Thank you and goodbye.